Have you ever watched two careers race toward each other so fast that it feels impossible to look away? That is exactly the situation unfolding at Wimbledon 2026. Sometimes tennis gives us a match that is about much more than rankings, statistics, or even the next round of a Grand Slam. Sometimes it delivers a moment where two young stars arrive at the same crossroads, each carrying a completely different story, yet both chasing the very same dream. That is why all eyes are now locked on one of the most fascinating second-round battles of the tournament. On one side stands Eala, the history-making Filipina who has become a symbol of hope for millions of tennis fans across Southeast Asia. On the other is Australia's fearless young talent Maya Joint, fresh off one of the biggest victories the sport has witnessed in years. Their paths could not have been more different, but now those journeys collide on the legendary grass courts of Wimbledon, where every point can change a career forever. The atmosphere around the All England club has been electric from the opening day. Every match has produced drama, every court has created unforgettable memories, and the tournament already feels destined to become one of the most memorable editions in recent history. Yet among all the incredible storylines, this matchup has quietly emerged as one that fans, analysts, and former champions cannot stop talking about. It represents the future of women's tennis standing face to face under the brightest spotlight the sport has to offer. For Eala, simply arriving at Wimbledon this year already marked a historic milestone. She entered the championships as the 29th seed, becoming the first Filipina ever to earn a seeded position at this iconic tournament. That achievement alone reflected years of relentless dedication, sacrifice, and belief. Every practice session, every difficult defeat, every long trip away from home had slowly built toward this moment. But becoming a seed was never the finish line. It was only the beginning of a much bigger mission. Eala arrived in London, determined to prove she belonged among the world's elite, and from the very first ball of her opening match, she played with the confidence of someone who had no intention of letting history become a burden. Instead, she turned it into motivation. Facing Mexico's Renata Zarazua, Eala wasted absolutely no time making her intentions clear. She attacked from the baseline with remarkable precision, moved effortlessly across the grass, and dictated rallies almost from start to finish. Every aggressive forehand pushed her opponent further onto the defensive, while her willingness to charge the net showed just how comfortable she has become on one of tennis' most unpredictable surfaces. The final score told only part of the story. More impressive than the numbers was the authority with which she controlled nearly every important moment of the contest. There was no panic when pressure appeared, no hesitation when opportunities opened up. Instead, there was calm decision-making, sharp execution, and the kind of confidence usually seen from players with far more experience. By the time she walked off the court, the message was impossible to ignore. Eala had not simply won her opening match. She had announced herself as a genuine contender, capable of making a deep run at Wimbledon. That performance became even more meaningful when viewed alongside everything she accomplished during the weeks leading into the tournament. Her grass court season had already turned plenty of heads. Strong victories against established stars and a title-winning run had steadily transformed her from an exciting prospect into someone the biggest names could no longer overlook. Every tournament added another layer of belief, and with every victory came greater expectations. Yet Eala seemed to grow stronger each time the spotlight intensified. Rather than shrinking under the pressure of representing an entire nation, she appeared energized by it. Millions of Filipino fans were following every serve, every winner, and every emotional celebration. But instead of becoming overwhelmed, she embraced the responsibility with remarkable maturity. Of course, standing across the net in the second round will be a player carrying enormous momentum of her own. Maya Joint enters this match with confidence soaring after producing one of the tournament's defining moments. Few people expected the young Australian to defeat Serena Williams, whose return to Wimbledon had captivated the sporting world. The occasion itself would have been intimidating for almost anyone. Center court was overflowing with emotion as fans welcomed one of the greatest champions in tennis history back onto the biggest stage. The crowd desperately wanted one more unforgettable Serena performance, and for long stretches, it looked as though they might get exactly that. But Maya Joint refused to become another chapter in Serena's legendary story. Instead, she started writing one of her own. Despite the enormous pressure, she stayed composed, trusted her game, and matched one of the greatest competitors the sport has ever known point for point. Every difficult situation seemed to make her even more determined. Every time Serena threatened to seize control, Joint found another answer. By the end of the match, the tennis world was left in disbelief. The young Australian had pulled off a career-changing victory that instantly transformed her into one of the biggest stories at Wimbledon. Now, with that unforgettable triumph behind her, an entirely different challenge awaits. Instead of facing a legendary champion looking for one last magical run, Maya Joint must now take on one of the fastest rising stars in the sport, a player who arrives fresh, confident, and determined to continue making history. That is exactly what makes this contest so captivating. Neither player is satisfied with what they have already achieved. Neither sees reaching the second round as enough. For both women, this feels like the beginning of something much bigger, and only one can continue the journey. As the excitement continues to build around the All England club, one question grows louder with every passing hour. Which young star is truly ready to seize this incredible opportunity and take another giant step toward tennis greatness? To understand why this matchup has generated so much excitement, you have to look beyond the headlines and dive into the way these two competitors actually play the game. Grass is unlike any other surface in tennis. It rewards players who can think quickly, move decisively, and seize opportunities before they disappear. Long rallies are less common, mistakes are punished immediately, and hesitation often becomes the difference between winning and losing. That reality makes this battle especially intriguing because Eala and Maya Joint have developed two very different approaches to reaching success. Eala's recent transformation has been impossible to ignore. Not long ago, many experts believed clay and hard courts suited her aggressive style better than grass. This season has completely changed that conversation. Match after match, she has shown that she is no longer adjusting to the surface. She is learning how to dominate it. Her footwork has become noticeably sharper, allowing her to attack short balls before opponents have time to recover. Her confidence at the net has also reached another level. Instead of staying behind the baseline waiting for mistakes, she actively looks for chances to finish points with crisp volleys and smart positioning. That aggressive mindset has become one of her biggest strengths. Against Zarazua, she wasn't simply hitting powerful shots. She was building points with patience before striking at exactly the right moment. Every rally seemed carefully planned, forcing her opponent to defend uncomfortable positions until an opening finally appeared. It was a display of maturity that suggested Eala is beginning to understand not only how to hit winning shots, but also when to hit them. That difference separates good players from dangerous ones. Another major reason behind her growing confidence is the preparation she completed before arriving at Wimbledon. Her recent grass court campaign was filled with valuable matches against elite competition, giving her experience that cannot be replicated in practice sessions. Every victory over established stars strengthened her belief that she belongs at this level. Every difficult match taught another lesson about handling pressure on the fastest surface in tennis. At the time Wimbledon began, Eala looked like someone whose game had been carefully built for exactly this moment. Her serve has also become a much more reliable weapon. Instead of simply trying to overpower opponents, she has focused on placement, variety, and creating uncomfortable angles. That allows her to earn plenty of free points while also setting up aggressive first shots on the next ball. Just as importantly, she has protected her own service games with remarkable consistency. When a player can serve confidently on grass, the pressure immediately shifts onto the opponent. Suddenly, every return game becomes a battle just to stay alive, and that psychological advantage often changes the entire rhythm of a match. But Maya Joint brings an entirely different challenge. While Eala prefers to dictate rallies, the Australian has built her reputation on absorbing pressure and refusing to break under it. Her victory over Serena Williams demonstrated that quality perfectly. There were countless moments when the momentum seemed ready to swing away from her, yet she remained calm, trusted her instincts, and continued competing with incredible determination. That kind of composure cannot be measured by rankings. It is earned through experience, resilience, and an unwavering belief that every point offers another opportunity. Joint covers the court exceptionally well, often forcing opponents to play one more shot than they expected. That extra ball may sound insignificant, but at the highest level, it can completely change a rally. Players who believe they have already finished the point suddenly find themselves scrambling again, and frustration begins to grow. That is exactly the type of pressure Joint creates. She stays patient, extends exchanges, and waits for the smallest opening before striking. Her backhand, in particular, has become one of her most reliable weapons. Hit with impressive timing and very little margin for error, it stays low through the grass and makes life extremely uncomfortable for aggressive opponents trying to attack from inside the baseline. This contrast in styles is what makes the upcoming match so fascinating. Eala will almost certainly try to shorten points whenever possible, using her forehand to open the court before moving forward to finish at the net. Joint, meanwhile, will attempt to slow that momentum by forcing longer exchanges and making Eala hit difficult shots repeatedly under pressure. It becomes a battle between initiative and patience, aggression and resilience. Whichever player succeeds in imposing her preferred rhythm is likely to gain a significant advantage. There is also another layer to this story that makes the matchup even more compelling. These two players are not strangers. They have already experienced the emotional highs and lows of facing each other in an important final. Their previous meeting produced an unforgettable contest that stretched to a deciding set tiebreak, where Maya Joint ultimately found a way to emerge victorious. That result still lingers in the background. For Joint, it provides confidence. She knows she has beaten Eala before when everything was on the line. For Eala, it serves as motivation. She understands that she came incredibly close to winning that encounter, and she has spent the past year improving nearly every part of her game. Players rarely forget matches like that. The memories remain, shaping confidence, preparation, and even small tactical decisions. This rematch offers Eala the perfect opportunity to prove how much she has evolved since that painful defeat. At the same time, Joint will arrive believing she already possesses the blueprint needed to succeed once again. Those invisible psychological battles often begin long before the first serve is struck, and by the time both players walk onto the famous Wimbledon grass, they will already be carrying memories of everything that happened between them before. That emotional history adds another layer of intensity to an encounter that already feels far bigger than a typical second-round match. As the anticipation continues to build, the biggest questions surrounding this match have less to do with technique and far more to do with mentality. Wimbledon has always been a tournament where confidence can become just as important as talent. The grass courts reward fearless decision-making, but they also expose every moment of doubt. That is why this contest may ultimately be decided by whichever player handles the emotional battle more effectively. Eala enters the second round carrying enormous expectations. Every victory she earns now feels historic because she is representing far more than herself. Millions of Filipino fans have followed her remarkable rise from promising junior to one of the brightest young stars in professional tennis. Every tournament she enters attracts more attention than the last, and every success creates even greater belief that she can eventually become the country's first Grand Slam singles champion. That kind of support is incredibly powerful, but it also creates pressure unlike anything most players experience. Every point suddenly matters not only for personal ambition, but for an entire nation watching with hope. So far, Eala has embraced that responsibility beautifully. Her body language has remained calm, her focus has never drifted, and she has consistently played with the confidence of someone who truly believes she belongs among the world's best. Still, Grand Slam tournaments have a unique way of testing players as they move deeper into the draw. Winning the opening match is one challenge. Handling the growing expectations after that victory is another entirely. The further a player advances, the more attention follows. Media coverage increases, crowds become larger, and every opponent raises their own level knowing they have an opportunity to eliminate one of the tournament's rising stars. Eala now finds herself in exactly that position. She is no longer viewed as a dangerous outsider capable of surprising people. She is becoming someone others expect to win, and that shift changes everything. Maya Joint, however, arrives with a completely different mindset. Before Wimbledon began, very few people predicted she would still be competing after the first round. Her recent struggles had left many wondering when her form would finally return. Then came the unforgettable victory over Serena Williams, and suddenly the narrative changed overnight. Instead of talking about her losing streak, everyone began discussing her resilience, her courage, and her ability to deliver under the brightest lights imaginable. That kind of breakthrough can completely transform a player's confidence. Once you prove to yourself that you can defeat one of the greatest champions in tennis history, every future challenge starts to feel a little less intimidating. There is another factor working in Joint's favor as well. She now has the freedom that often makes dangerous players even more difficult to stop. Very few people expected her to eliminate Serena. She already exceeded most predictions, meaning she can step onto the court against Eala with less external pressure weighing on her shoulders. Sometimes that freedom allows athletes to play their very best tennis because they stop worrying about outcomes and simply trust their instincts. Eala, meanwhile, will likely feel that she has more to lose. Those emotional dynamics could become incredibly important if the match reaches a tense final set. Of course, there is one practical issue that cannot be ignored either. Recovery may play a surprisingly significant role in determining the outcome. Eala enjoyed a relatively comfortable first-round victory that allowed her to conserve both physical and mental energy. She finished her match efficiently, avoided extended battles, and had valuable time to recover before stepping back onto the practice courts. Joint's path could not have been more different. Her emotional showdown with Serena demanded nearly everything she had. Long rallies, intense pressure, and the overwhelming atmosphere of center court required enormous physical and psychological effort. Victories like that are unforgettable, but they also come with a price. The adrenaline eventually fades, the body begins to feel the workload, and maintaining that same emotional intensity just 48 hours later becomes a difficult challenge. Champions find ways to recover quickly, but no player is completely immune to fatigue. That is why the opening games of this match could reveal a great deal. If Eala immediately establishes a fast tempo, moving Joint from corner to corner and forcing her into long sprints, she may discover whether the Australian has fully recovered from her marathon battle. On the other hand, if Joint settles comfortably into the match and begins extending rallies early, it could signal that her confidence has completely erased any lingering exhaustion. The tactical battle is expected to be fascinating from the very first point. Eala will almost certainly look to attack second serves, step inside the baseline whenever possible, and finish rallies before Joint has time to settle into her defensive rhythm. She knows allowing the Australian to dictate long exchanges would gradually shift momentum away from her. Variety will also be essential. Mixing powerful forehands with carefully disguised drop shots and well-timed approaches to the net could prevent Joint from finding a comfortable rhythm. Meanwhile, Joint's strategy is likely to focus on disrupting Eala's aggressive instincts. Keeping the ball deep, forcing awkward contact points, and making every rally physically demanding could slowly increase the pressure on the Filipina. The longer points become, the more opportunities Joint creates to frustrate an opponent eager to attack. That chess match between offense and defense is what makes elite tennis so compelling. Every adjustment creates another response. Every successful tactic forces another tactical change. Sometimes matches are decided not by spectacular winners, but by who adapts more effectively when Plan A stops working. Both of these young stars have already demonstrated impressive maturity throughout their careers, and this contest may demand every bit of that intelligence before a winner finally emerges. When the first serve is finally struck, rankings, predictions, and pre-match discussions will instantly disappear. From that point forward, everything will depend on execution, composure, and the ability to embrace one of the biggest opportunities either player has faced. That is the beauty of Wimbledon. Every match has the power to reshape careers, and sometimes the smallest moments become the ones remembered for years. A single break of serve, one perfectly timed passing shot, or one fearless decision under pressure can completely alter the direction of a tournament. For Alex Eala, this match represents far more than a place in the third round. It is another opportunity to prove that her remarkable rise is no accident. Over the past year, she has steadily climbed through the rankings by defeating higher-ranked opponents, collecting valuable titles, and showing that she belongs among the elite players on the WTA Tour. Yet Grand Slam tournaments are where reputations are truly built. Winning consistently at the sport's biggest events is what separates talented players from future champions. Every victory at Wimbledon carries extra significance because of the tournament's unmatched history and prestige. Eala understands that better than anyone. She knows another impressive performance would strengthen the growing belief that she is no longer simply one of tennis' brightest prospects, but a genuine contender capable of challenging the very best. It would also serve as another historic milestone for Philippine tennis, inspiring an entirely new generation of young athletes who now see someone from their own country competing confidently on the world's biggest stage. Every child dreaming of holding a tennis racket can now point toward Alex Eala and believe that impossible dreams are, in fact, possible. That influence reaches far beyond statistics or trophies. It is the kind of legacy that lasts for decades. Maya Joint, however, is chasing a breakthrough that could prove just as meaningful. Her unforgettable victory over Serena Williams has already guaranteed her a place in Wimbledon history, but true competitors rarely settle after one great moment. They immediately begin searching for the next challenge. That mentality is exactly what makes Joint so dangerous. She has already shown she can handle the pressure of center court against one of the greatest champions the game has ever produced. Now she has the chance to prove that performance was not a once-in-a-lifetime achievement, but the beginning of something much bigger. If she can follow such an emotional victory with another outstanding performance, the rest of the field will be forced to view her very differently. Suddenly, she would no longer be considered the player who produced one shocking upset. She would become someone capable of making a genuine run through the second week of Wimbledon. That possibility alone should excite every tennis fan. Beyond the individual stories, this matchup also symbolizes something much larger happening across women's tennis. The sport is experiencing a fascinating transition as a new generation of fearless young players begins challenging the established order. Veterans who dominated for years are gradually passing the spotlight to ambitious newcomers eager to create their own legacies. Alex Eala and Maya Joint are perfect examples of that changing landscape. Both have already demonstrated remarkable maturity despite their young ages. Both have shown they possess the talent, determination, and resilience required to compete on the biggest stages. Their meeting at Wimbledon feels less like an ordinary second-round match and more like a glimpse into the future of the WTA Tour. It is entirely possible that this will not be the last time these two players face one another with high stakes attached. Their contrasting styles, competitive personalities, and growing confidence suggest this rivalry could continue developing for many seasons to come. That thought alone makes this encounter even more compelling. Looking purely at the matchup, predicting a winner feels almost impossible. Eala enters with superior recent form, greater experience against top-ranked opponents this season, and the confidence gained from an impressive opening round performance. Joint arrives carrying the emotional momentum of eliminating Serena Williams and the knowledge that she has defeated Eala before in a major grass-court battle. Both possess strengths capable of deciding the outcome. Both have weaknesses the other will attempt to expose. In matches like these, tiny margins often separate victory from heartbreak. One lapse in concentration, one missed opportunity on break point, or one courageous decision in a tense tiebreak could determine who continues chasing the Wimbledon dream. Regardless of the final score, one thing already feels certain. Fans are about to witness two extraordinary young competitors pushing each other to the limit on one of tennis' most iconic stages. Matches like this remind us why Grand Slam tennis remains so captivating. It is never only about forehands, backhands, or statistics. It is about ambition, resilience, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. It is about athletes willing to risk everything for moments that may define their entire careers. As Wimbledon continues to produce unforgettable stories, this clash between Alex Eala and Maya Joint has every ingredient needed to become another memorable chapter. Whether Eala continues her historic march through the tournament or Joint extends her dream run after shocking the tennis world, one thing is beyond doubt. When these two rising stars walk onto the grass, they will not simply be playing for a place in the third round. They will be competing for confidence, momentum, history, and the chance to announce to the entire tennis world that the future has officially arrived. And for everyone watching around the globe, that is exactly the kind of match you never want to miss.